Today we're going to talk about how to expand your foreign clientele. Specifically for real estate brokers and people who work in the real estate industry here in the US, this question comes up all the time at conferences, in our Q&As. People want to know, with the increasing number of foreign investors, how do I get a piece of the pie? How do I expand my foreign clientele? And so we're going to talk about that today. The first thing we want to talk about is the profile of real estate buyers and where the international market comes in. So the first type of profile is individuals who are buying properties just for investment purposes. Those individuals have money to burn. They believe that brick and mortar is the sound investment vehicle for them, and they may or may not be interested in residing in the US. The second group are the people who have a principal residence in another country and use properties in the US for vacation purposes. Those people may or may not be interested in living in the US, but there's a greater percentage of them than the ones who are doing it just for investment purposes. And then we have people who are seeking the US as a primary residence. They want to live here permanently. The problem is they don't know what visa or green card they're eligible for or what options they have. And that's your primary target market. So how do you expand your clientele to foreign customers? The first thing is that when you're coming up with a marketing program, you must target your strengths and the commonalities that you or your firm have in terms of language and culture with the countries that you're targeting. That's the most important thing. Now, one way to identify ways to get people here is to pair them up with professionals that understand solutions to their needs, not just where their property is going to be located or how many bedrooms they need, but how do you get them here permanently? And so you need to work with people who understand how to package those two things together. Once they're in the US, these clients become full-time referral sources, not only to people in the US, but to people from the country that they're from. And so this can create an exponentially large referral base for you. The last thing is that once you know how to identify different kinds of visas and green cards for your clients or the different possibilities, the more people that you get who are professionals and who have green cards, those people will also be eligible for mortgages from a lot of the leading mortgage lenders here in the US. So let's talk about those different kinds of profile investors now. How do you expand your clientele to reach those markets? The first one obviously is marketing, because the potential buyers may want to live, work, study in the US, and that requires immigration solutions. One way to be able to do that is to be able to identify the kinds of clients that you're targeting. Some people already have access to the US, some don't. If you can create those solutions for them to come here, you may gain new clients. Now, if they're interested in living here full time, you can also become a constant referral source. In other words, each client that you convert becomes someone who can refer you more clients. And lastly, selling to employment authorized green card holders means that you can also secure buyers who need a mortgage, which is also a very important issue in real estate. Let's talk about the 5 common profiles of foreign investors. The first one are foreign students. Last year, there were almost 800,000 students on an F1 student visa from other countries. What does that mean? Well, it's a great potential market for you and for investors in property. Usually they're on what's called an F1 student visa, and then when they graduate from a university program, they can do what's called optional practical training, which gives them 1 year to work. The problem is, once they finish that optional practical training, it's very difficult for them to find sponsorship. And if they get sponsored, it's very difficult to get a visa approved because there are a limited number of visas per year. Many students who come here, especially to study at a university level, they want to stay here permanently. So how do you make that happen? That's the question. Because the cost of education is so high, the chances of scholarships and loans are so low, these students generally come from upper class families with money. So the question becomes, how do you target them? Let's talk about some options. The E2 visa is one that allows students from a country that has a bilateral treaty with the US to invest in an existing business, purchase a business, or start a new startup and get a visa to run it. So that's the E2. What's most important here is to consult the Department of State website, which has a list of all the countries that pertain to that treaty. If your clients don't come from those countries, you have to look for other options. So one of those can be the EB5 green card. EB5 is for students who come from countries that don't have a treaty. Now, the majority of the people who are investing in EB5 are from Brazil, Russia, India, Indonesia, China, and South Africa. Those are the BRICS countries. The reason why they invest in EB5 is because they do not have an E2 treaty. So when you're thinking about which clients to target, or you're already working with a specific community, it's important for you to know if people from that country are E2 eligible or not. It's important also to note that the funds need to be legally obtained, and you have to demonstrate the source of funds. A lot of times in real estate transactions, especially here in New York City, people are buying their real estate with cash, and they don't necessarily have to show the source of that money. That is not the case with immigration. With immigration, you have to show where the funds are coming from. So in the case of students, most of the time the students are gifted the money by their family members or friends through a legal document in their home country. As long as you can show that the funds were under their control and legally obtained, those funds can be used for EB5, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. The next category are professionals and employees. A lot of these individuals have 1.5 feet in the US. What that means is they are sponsored by US employers, but they're not here permanently. They're here on temporary work visas. The majority of those come under 3 categories. One is the H-1B, which is for university degree holders. Another is the E1 or the E2, the E2 we just previously talked about. Those are treaty-based companies set up in the US sponsoring people from their home country. And then you have L1, which means foreign parent company sets up a US subsidiary and transfers managers and executives, as well as what's called specialized knowledge employees, to the US. If any of your clients come under one of these 3 categories, you have a good chance of getting them mortgages as well as having them for a long-term. Employees, why do they make such great potential clients? Well, foreign nationals with any of these 3 visa classifications are given what's called dual intent. This means that they're not required to maintain a foreign residence, which makes them prime candidates for buying US real estate. They are also the most likely to be sponsored for green cards and to become permanent residents. And as I said earlier, they're eligible for mortgages with many mortgage lenders. So E, L, and the H-1B visa are the categories that you should look out for potential clients. How about category 3, entrepreneurs and business owners? Entrepreneurs and business owners overseas can launch new US companies and get visas to run their US operations, which allows them to be transferred to the US to run those new companies. Since they're basing their visas on either investment or the expansion of an existing business, they usually have money and make for good potential clients. The applicable visa classifications carry dual intent, and so these individuals are also eligible for green cards. How about stars? Stars means to me anyone who is considered to have extraordinary ability in their field, which means that they're at the top of their field. This can include movie stars, serial entrepreneurs, well-known scientists, researchers, journalists, essentially any category, any profession that's legal. If your clients can show that they're at the top of their field and they're internationally recognized, they're actually eligible for a self-sponsored green card. That means that they can get a green card without having a sponsor, without being employed by anyone, and also they can fast track that with what's called premium processing. So essentially they can get a green card very quickly within a few months. Here's an example of a case that we processed last year. It was a creative director in advertising from Australia. He had won awards, had important positions in well-recognized firms, had articles written about him, had judged the work of others, and had received high compensation for the positions that he held. Now, he had been told previously by other attorneys that he really only qualified for an extraordinary ability temporary visa and that he needed sponsorship. But we were able to establish that he met this threshold for a green card. He was not a movie star, and perhaps no one outside of the advertising world knew that he existed. But the important thing to know is that if your clients are stars in their industry, they could be eligible for a straight green card. Another category are retirees. Now, it's very important to understand that the retirees that are interested in moving to the US without a job offer, without an investment, will have a very difficult time. Now, a lot of times they invest in the EB-5 program, and it's very important to understand, and this comes up at a lot of these real estate conventions, that buying your own property for personal use does not constitute an investment that you can use to obtain a green card. Simply put, if you're not investing in a project that will create 10 full-time jobs, you cannot get an EB-5 green card through your property purchase. It's very important to keep that in mind. So the question becomes, how do you use the EB-5 program? Well, the EB-5 will allow you as a real estate broker to package the property you want to sell. What does that mean? Well, assuming the investment, let's say for now, is $500,000 and the property that you want to sell is $1.5 million, you can package the entire deal with your clients as a $2 million investment. But the two investments are separate. They can't be combined into one vehicle. It has to be an investment in a project that creates jobs, and with the remaining funds, your clients can buy the property that they want. Some take-home lessons here in order to attract more foreign clients. First, target the clients that you feel you have an affinity with. So it may be language, it may be culture. If you have a history with a certain country, make sure you research and find out which countries qualify for the E2 visa, the E1 visa, so you know if you can offer that possibility to your clients. Ask them if they own an existing company overseas that they can set up a subsidiary for that allows them to come here on an L1 visa and then apply for a green card. You'll find that many times if you find a solution to their immigration needs, that will help you secure the client, and then they will become your client for life. Make sure to have people in your wheelhouse who understand these issues thoroughly in order to maximize your chances of closing the deal and opening the door to an unlimited amount of future clients from overseas. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you can write us anytime at info@smalawyers.com. Thank you.